Hi everyone, welcome again. It is with great pleasure and excitement that we gathered here again for another amazing, inspiring session uh, through a very distinguished guest, Mr. Greg Morrissey. He's the founder of Mountain Goat Movement, and he has embarked on a remarkable journey of fostering growth, resilience, and empowerment among young minds through adventurous exploration. As a seasoned high school teacher and coach, Mr. Morrissey spent the last 10 years building human powered adventures of high school and college students in the greatest NYC area. He has led thousands of young people on treks, climbing trips, surf trips, ski trips, sustainability programs, and more, both domestically and internationally. Joining him today in the conversation is his student, Mr. Mossimo Infante, and an Emmy-winning filmfare and professor, Mr. John Barnhardt. I welcome you all to this session of youth empowerment through the outdoors. Personally, I'm very excited for this session, and we are looking forward to having more engaging conversations throughout. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Greg.
Thank you very much, Sonali. We really appreciate your warm welcome here. John, Mossimo, and I are very excited to share the mission of Mountain Goat Movement. I guess before I begin with my presentation, I just want to say at the forefront of everything that we do with Mountain Goat Movement, my work, the things that inspire John, and why Mossimo's here with us today as a student is education. I think great teachers, great mentors have a tremendous responsibility to instill skills that are often dismissed or not thought about in the classroom, skills pertaining to grit, resilience, teachability, perseverance, all these things that make a person dynamic, engaging, and an empathetic global citizen. And I think one of the ways that we can do that is by fostering a deep love of the outdoors, the natural world, and in turn serving communities. So I'm really honored to be a part of this summit this year. A fellow explorer from the Explorers Club, of which John and I are members of, invited me to speak because she's been keeping a pulse on the work that I've been doing within our communities across New York, New Jersey, and the greater United States. So thank you for tuning in. And I would love to share a presentation with you before I turn it over to Mossimo, as well as John. So Mountain Goat Movement was born out of my work as a high school teacher. So my background is I taught high school literature for 9 years at an all-boys school in Jersey City, New Jersey. Jersey City sits right across from the World Trade Center. It's considered actually the most diverse city in the United States. I was very fortunate enough to work with about 1,000 all boys between the ages of 14 to 18. And being that we were confined to an urban environment, the outdoors, the natural world are often an afterthought. And my background coming up through Boy Scouts and being very fortunate to have two great parents who kind of led me through the outdoors on hiking trips, trekking, surfing, skiing, all these different avenues to explore the natural world. I've always had a deep fascination for the outdoors. And so outside of my day-to-day of teaching literature, I was able to build an outdoor ed program at this school in Jersey City. And it really was a very life-giving 9 years for me in terms of introducing the outdoors to students who might not be able to access the outdoors. So having worked with about 2,000 students, I was fortunate enough to show 16, 17, and even 18-year-olds their first mountain, or their first time leaving the country and going to a place like Costa Rica or Peru, or Western Europe. And so it was very life-giving for me. So that idea, that experience inspired me to launch an organization called Mountain Goat Movement, whereby I can work with various high schools and colleges across the US. So it's one thing to go out and have an adventure. You know, it's one thing to go out and cross-country ski on a beautiful Saturday, or go for a hike or go for a mountain climb, but it's another thing to engage with the science and the storytelling tied to these places. So what I try to do is I try to bridge the gap. I try to merge worlds between students, high school and college students, and explorers and scientists and storytellers and thought leaders and conservationists who are doing really meaningful work in the great outdoors and beyond. That is the premise of Mountain Goat. Our mission is to provide transformative adventures that inspire and challenge students while allowing them to connect with explorers, scientists, and storytellers. So a few pictures from over the years. So this picture right here is I'm with a colleague. This is another teacher. His name is Pete. Pete and I had the great opportunity to do a human-powered cycling trip from Canada to Mexico. It was about a 2,500-mile journey. And like I said before, you know, it's one thing to go out and have an adventure, but it's another thing to think about how can we take an adventure and experience and make it have larger impact across the communities that we served. So for this expedition in particular, it was 30 days of human-powered cycling across Canada, California, Oregon, Washington, and Mexico. And personally, it was very challenging and rewarding and all these wonderful things that we experienced in the outdoors. But from a community impact point, this experience, I was able to leverage a scholarship foundation. So in working with brands and donors who care about education, I was able to raise $40,000. And that $40,000 served as a scholarship fund, which empowered and enabled 15 low-income students across New York and New Jersey to go out and have their own adventure. So of those 15 students, some of them went down to Costa Rica, others went to Peru, others went up to the Adirondacks, which is the largest protected park in the United States outside of Denali in Alaska. But the fact of the matter is that money, although not a lot, enabled students of low-income, disadvantaged backgrounds to go out and have these experiences that they otherwise wouldn't be able to have. And what came from those experiences was absolutely beautiful. You know, some of those students now in their 20s are environmental scientists. Earlier this year, I had an opportunity to serve as an opening presenter for Al Gore in New York City. And the emphasis of the talk and the day was on conservation work. And one of my students, who this scholarship funded, joined me for that talk. So Aiden, as a student, his home burnt down when he was in high school, and he was displaced for the better part of 2 to 3 years. And so day-to-day finances were really tough, and he needed respite. He needed reprieve from kind of the chaos and the hardship of his day-to-day. And what's one of the best things that we can do for our mental health is go outside and have an experience. And so I funded Aiden for 2 trips, one of which was to Costa Rica. Now, as a college graduate, he's taken those experiences. He's a world traveler, and he also wants to give back. So I was really fortunate to have Aiden join me on stage to talk about the importance of adventure travel and conservation in advance of Al Gore's talk. So again, like when we go out and have these adventures and do things that are meaningful for our community, oftentimes they can be thankless. You know, I'm sure throughout the conference, we've heard from a number of educators and coaches and folks who are doing really meaningful work. And sometimes we're not thanked. But we always have to think about, you know, we're doing this because we deeply care about it. We're driven to create something meaningful and impactful. And when those moments happen, when people come back with gratitude or you can better another life, we are doing good work. All it takes is one life, bettering one life. And that's kind of how we can change the world. So like I said, I've been blessed to have traveled over the world with about 2,000 students over the last 10 years. The photo on the left is a picture above Machu Picchu with 3 of my former students. On the right is a student who just summited the highest peak in New York, and it was his first mountain. Every year, I take students out skiing. So some of these students are amateur professionals, and some of them are learning to ski or snowboard for the first time. And again, it's not just about, going out and skiing on a Saturday and Sunday. Of course, there's immense value in that. But what can we do beyond that? So the photo on the left, for example, 40 students from the city came up to Vermont. We skied for 3 days. And we also looped in a product engineer from Arc'teryx. And this gentleman named Adam taught students about the science and engineering behind product and outdoor wear, which was super fascinating. So if, for example, a student might not become a professional skier, but how many other avenues are there in the outdoor industry space? So a number of those students are engaged with engineering and robotics club and wanting to learn about the science and the how-to behind things. And so to hear from someone who designs jackets and rain gear and snow pants and so on and so forth, I think is a really good touch point of mentorship. The photo on the right is a picture of a group that summited the highest point in New York. And as John can attest, the highest point in New York is no joke. It's a challenging hike. And oftentimes it's met with, rolled ankles and blisters and bruises and the occasional complaining. But the lessons that are learned on a hike like Mount Morrissey are realized after the fact, right? It's only after the fact when we have a big day of adventure can we reflect on, wow, I didn't know that my body could do that. I didn't know my mind could do that. I didn't know that I could work in a team of 10 to 12 strangers and complete a difficult task. So these are the things that I try to cultivate and employ throughout various adventures and travel experiences with young people. This is a photo of the Grand Teton, which is a pretty famous mountain in Wyoming. It's considered the premier mountaineering experience in the United States. The Grand is a 3 to 4 day climb, and it's technical. It requires some element of physical fitness. And I wanted to share this story because, again, I think the outdoors are a great escape for us, for our mental health, for our well-being, for fostering teamwork, friendship, and discovering ourselves. So in this photo, I'm with my good friend, colleague, and partner, Bima Gaddy. So before this trip, Bima, who's assisted me with a number of student experiences in the great outdoors, was a lifelong smoker. We all have vices. We all have things that we want to quit. And so for Bima, as a lifelong smoker, he wanted to quit smoking cold turkey. And so for Bima, as a former athlete and someone who loves to compete, he knew that he had to put something in the calendar a year out to pursue. Excuse me. So I suggested the idea of a high altitude climb in the US. So for 1 year, Bima trained really hard, got to know the mountains well, and he quit smoking cold turkey to do this climb. We summited. That top photo on the left is a picture of our summit. Typically someone who smokes wouldn't be able to do this climb. For Bima, it motivated him to quit smoking. And now years later, years after this climb, he hasn't touched a cigarette. So it's trips like this, it's objectives like this that can really change our lives and encourage us to become better people, better versions of ourselves. Last summer, we brought a group up to the top of Kilimanjaro, which is the highest point in Africa. Kilimanjaro is rich in culture and history. And one thing to note about the economy in Tanzania is that it's primarily fueled from tourism to Kilimanjaro. So here is our group of about 10 guys, all relatively recent graduates in high school, college, or just graduated college, and our team of porters. So one of the guys in this photo is named Yessi. He's been a guide on Kilimanjaro for the last 15 years, and he has, believe it or not, 591 climbs of Kilimanjaro. And so for us from New York and New Jersey, many of us from urban areas, to leave, go all the way across the world to Kilimanjaro, meet someone like Yessi is just a remarkable touch point to connect with people from all over the world who have very different backgrounds from us. And, ultimately, these are the stories, the experiences that we tell for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. right? These are the memories that we make. These are the learning objectives that can be had outside of the classroom. You know, the guys on this trip experienced things on Kilimanjaro that they would never learn or experience in a classroom. The photo on the right is one of the glaciers on Kilimanjaro, which is the size of New York City apartment buildings, and it's quickly receding. You know, we're all intimately aware of the dangers of climate change and the forever changing world that we live in. That glacier is expected to recede by potentially 2025. So it's, you know, again, it's one thing to hear about or learn about environmental science in the classroom. It's another thing to go out into the world and see glaciers that are receding and see third world countries that are being affected right now by climate change, to see small towns and villages going underwater. And so, you know, I think for young people, you know, especially in the most formative years of their life, their teenage years, to go out and have these experiences is transformative. And it allows us to see the world in ways that we could not experience in a book. Most recently, we completed a source to sea expedition. So the Hudson River defines the culture, the identity, and much of the history of New York and surrounding areas. So that would be New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, even Massachusetts. The Hudson River is 315 miles long. The source point begins in the Lake Placid area, the Adirondack region, and it concludes right outside of New York City, where it empties out into the Hudson River. Into the Atlantic Ocean, sorry. And crazy enough, I've read enough articles where it's been proven that traces of the Hudson River can be found all the way in Antarctica. So again, another touch point where it's like, wow, you know, the world is completely massive, but we are all somehow connected. And so having taught in Jersey City, where Mossimo was a student, you know, every day we were able to see the Hudson River, right, you know, where the World Trade Center sits. And it's a river that we see every single day, a river that I've seen every day for the last 15 years. And yet I know nothing about this river. And strangely enough, this Hudson River source to sea expedition has only been completed by 2 or 3 people. And when you think of the size of New York, of millions and millions of people who utilize the Hudson River, who tap into its culture and history, 99% of them have never actually experienced the river. They've never gone into the river, whether it be kayaking, canoeing, rafting, or even taking the ferry across to another city. So for us, we wanted to create this expedition that served right in our backyards, right? This is a location that we have easy access to, but we just so readily dismiss it. And so 8 high school boys from all over the country, primarily from New York and New Jersey, ventured out to complete a human-powered expedition of the Hudson River. So from the source point to the sea, we hiked, we kayaked, we whitewater rafted, we canoed, we camped, we cycled. We used our feet to travel 390 miles. And again, like I alluded to before, it's one thing to have an adventure that's life-giving in and of itself, but it's another thing to bring on curriculum onto a trip like this. So in addition to the human-powered adventure, we also had a team of scientists. Dr. Tim Keyes, who's a data scientist and studies air and water quality. Dr. Keyes taught the students how to measure the health of the Hudson River. So the students learned how to analyze and examine microplastics and chloride levels in the river. And they're going to take their findings and produce a citizen science paper. Dr. Keyes now can also serve as a mentor for these young men who are interested in these sciences. Dr. Joseph Dady, who's the director of Hamlets to Huts and who studied the Hudson River for years and years, is an environmental scientist and writes environmental policy. So to have his expertise and mentorship on the trip was invaluable. And then John, who you'll meet in a moment, is an Emmy-winning filmmaker. He's an educator, and he and his team documented our experience, of which we're going to create a feature documentary for spring 2024. All these photos were shot by John and his really talented team. So, these are about 20 people from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, different experience levels, different motivations, different education levels, different ages, all coming together to complete a difficult, challenging, life-giving project. And when we think of education, like, what's more impactful than doing something like that? The last photo I wanted to show you was this. So John took this really beautiful photo. This is primarily, these are the students and the expedition leaders. We are standing at a confluence. A confluence is a merging of two rivers where they become one. That confluence, that meeting point, is the official known spot of where the Hudson River begins. In this picture, we have folks of various ages from 16 years old to 65. We have folks in this photo from New York, New Jersey, and as far as California. We have folks in this photo of various financial backgrounds and home life experiences. We have public school students here, private school students here. We have students who've hiked their entire lives. We have students who've never seen a mountain before. And yet here they all stand. They stand together, arm in arm, linked together, doing a project, an experience that most of the world will never be able to get to do. And how fortunate, how lucky are we as an expedition group to be able to pursue something like this? And, I think the most important lesson here, the most important value of a Source to Sea expedition or any expedition is the fact that you can cultivate relationships that last an entire lifetime. So these 8 students at one point were strangers. They were strangers on July 17th. They had never met each other, our first day of the trip. And by August 1, our final day of the trip, they became brothers. They ended this trip arm in arm. When we think of education, when we think of the future of learning, this is my dream. This is what education should look like. It should look like people of various backgrounds and experiences coming together and working on a project that has meaning and substance. And so, I'm really proud of this group. And I hope that with Mountain Goat Movement, we can continue to replicate these experiences. In the year ahead, I'm really excited to be working with schools across the world and developing expeditions that unite brothers and sisters in challenging, life-giving environments. For example, I know next summer we're doing Kilimanjaro again. We're going to go to Antarctica in December 2024, and we're going to work with a team of scientists down there and camp on the landmass of Antarctica and cross-country ski and kayak and be in these waters that are affected by the Hudson River, miles and miles and miles away. And so, I hope that throughout this summit that I can connect with people who are curious about the world, curious about life, and want to be empathetic global citizens. So I really appreciate your time and tuning in. And I'd now like to turn it over to 2 friends, colleagues, mentors who have been a part of my journey with Mountain Goat Movement since its inception and even before then. I'd like to introduce both of them again. One of them is Mossimo. So Mossimo is a former student of mine. He's from the Jersey City area. Mossimo is our lead student ambassador for Mountain Goat Movement. He's done a great job over these last couple of years of inspiring his peers to experience the great outdoors. He's done a tremendous job of helping launch Mountain Goat Movement, the website, the social media, events, helping lead trips, so on and so forth. And I'm also joined by John Barnhardt, who is a mentor, an educator, and an Emmy-winning filmmaker. We can go out and have these amazing experiences, but we also have to find a way to tell our story. And John tells our story in beautiful, incredible ways, one of which will be a feature documentary in spring 2024. So first, I'd like to turn it over to Mossimo, and then I'll turn it over to John. But before I turn it over to John, I just want to share a little trailer, not the official trailer, but a beautiful little trailer that John put together for our Source to Sea expedition.
For 12 years, ran into Greg in an event called Outdoor Retailer. We connected being explorers and educators. I did a wildlife TV show for National Geographic for 8 years, which actually took me to India, where Delhi, and I've been to Chennai. My adventures with India. Also, I shot a movie in London before COVID called 83, about the 83 cricket team. I shot most of the cricket shots with Ranveer Singh was part of that movie. I'm not sure if anyone has seen that, but I was part of that. So it was an amazing experience. As far as education, and I think that what Greg's doing with Mountain Goat, I think there needs to be more programs like that because it gets people out there. It gets them doing stuff. You could read about the outdoors. You could read about filmmaking. You could read about anything. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you really hear me? Experience it and learn it. I think the world is missing hands-on experience, especially in the States. A lot of people are behind their computers a lot. A lot of people are not getting outside. So I think it's like what Greg said. I think that the outdoors calms you down. That's a good place for people to be. I think that there's 3 types of education. Sure. There's street smart, knowing your streets, knowing what to do. There's academics, and then there's travel and outdoor experience. You'll be a better person by being outdoors. You'll learn how to work with people. You'll be in environments that push you and test you, but also define you and make you. So programs like this and doing things like what Mountain Goat Movement is doing, I think is very important, especially for our youth, for anyone under 18 that's maybe trying to find themselves, maybe that's grown up in a city, maybe that's grown up, I'm in Colorado. A lot of people do a lot of outdoors here, but there are also a lot of people that just kind of live on farms and don't really get out. Programs like this will get you outside. And my experience with travel, with being in different countries, is that I feel like places outside, countries that are highly technically involved, seem to be more connected to their land. And I think that programs like this are getting us back into being more connected to the ground, being connected to the earth, getting your hands dirty, and kind of having a better appreciation for the planet we live on. In my travels, I first started out as maybe being a really high-profile animal photographer, and then quickly realized that the environment was falling apart and that I needed to be part of that. I became a global steward and an environmentalist very quickly in my photography career. And it's really changed me, and it's really made me want to connect with people and do outdoor adventure plus education. I quit teaching film school so I could go out and more hands-on things. And I think being a teacher in that environment has made me a better person and a better filmmaker, a better storyteller. With working with Mossimo and working with Greg, I've seen both of them grow. I'm not much older than Greg, but I'm also a lot older than Greg. And to see these two grow doing these adventures, it's really important. It really means a lot to me. Right now I'm working at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I have 8 work-study students under me, and we are doing projects that have impact. And that's another thing that's important to me, that every project I do has to have some kind of impact. If that's a environmental impact, if that is a social impact, or whatever it is, it has to have impact on the human outlook on life. It has to have impact on people. And I think what Greg is doing by quitting teaching, he had a job to work 20 years, get a retirement, and he quit. And he's doing it, and he's out on his own, and he's doing it, and he's making things happen. He's making change happen. And I think the best thing you can do for somebody is to inspire them or change their kind of direction to be better. And I think that what I've learned and watching Mossimo, I've known Mossimo for about 1.5 years now, and watching him grow, coming from being a a junior in high school, and now he's going into college, and just seeing the man that he has become is very meaningful. And that's a big part of Greg. And that's a big part of Greg wanting to be a teacher and change lives. I think the biggest thing you could do with your life is to inspire someone else to be better, even if it's just one person. And I think you could do that by doing stuff in the outdoors, by connecting with your environment and connecting with the people that understand how to make and move the needle forward. And I'm so grateful to be part of the Mountain Goat movement. I'm so grateful to be an educator. I've been lucky enough to travel around the world. India had the best food I've ever been to, by the way, next to Morocco, just so you know. And I really loved working on the Bollywood movie. So, I mean, and it connected me with people. I learn cultures every time I go out. And it doesn't matter if it's in America, like we just did this trip in the Hudson. I'm learning about people from New York. I'm learning about people from San Diego, and just learning how they grew up. I mean, it doesn't matter where you are. It's about who you connect with. So I really appreciate everything, Greg. I really appreciate being on the summit. I hope that what we're saying as a trio inspires someone to like put down their phones, go outdoors, take a walk. Don't just drive somewhere. Go walk and visit your family. Go visit people. You know, like me and Mossimo, we have to go meet at 3rd and Jack in New Jersey to visit our buddy Hawk Lizzie. And you know, we're going to do that someday. We're just too far apart right now. So I really appreciate it. I'm going to turn it over to Mossimo, but follow mountaingoatmovement.com. Get involved with projects like that around you. If you can't get involved with Morrissey's project, create your own project. Do something. Move the needle forward. Change somebody's life. Change one person's life in your life, and you live something great. So I really appreciate everybody, and thank you.
Moss, thank you very much for
yeah,
joining.
no problem. All right, so as Mr. Morrissey already introduced me, I'm Mossimo Infante-Meehan. I'm from Jersey City, New Jersey. I'm 18 years old. I just graduated high school, and I will be heading to Fairfield University in Connecticut, to where I will be majoring in communications. So I actually wanted to start this talk off a little bit differently, because, you know, everyone has already heard what the movement's about. You've heard from 2 different perspectives, and now you're hearing from me, the student perspective, who has been the student on these trips. So as you can see behind me, I wanted to tell you guys where I'm actually doing this call from. I'm actually in my manager's office at work. And it's a weird way to start, but I wanted to start that way because it's kind of weird. You know, I'm speaking at this big, you know, Changemaker 20 Summit. Why didn't I take off of work? Why would I be still working? While I'm on this call? Because Mountain Goat Movement is so important to me, and it has changed my life's perspective and even my life goals. So why am I still at my job, and why didn't I just take off? And I did this because it is a testament to who Mr. Morrissey is, what he teaches, and what Mountain Goat Movement does to a young teenager. It teaches that hard work always comes first, and that nothing is ever given to you in life. And the harder you work, the easier and better your life will become. Not to mention, the more opportunities one will get to see the world. Mr. Morrissey teaches us on these trips, and even in the classroom, to use Jesuit ideals throughout our daily lives. So he combines the terms magis and cura personalis. Magis is to always strive for the greater good, and cura personalis is to care for the whole person. When Mr. Morrissey teaches, he combines those to preach that we should all go through life being compassionate for the other person. So at my job today, if I took off, all my other coworkers wouldn't be able to get their jobs done. I needed to be here to work to help them. This talk is as important as it gets for me, but as Mr. Morrissey teaches me and always teaches every other student he has worked with, is to always think about the other person and try to do whatever one can to help them. And that is how I live. I've been on 2 Mountain Goat Movement trips. I'm so grateful to have been able to go and experience those experiences I had as a financial aid student. I've been to Killington, Vermont on a ski trip. But what I'll be mostly talking about is the surfing trip I went on when I was 17 years old to Costa Rica. As a financial aid student, going to Costa Rica at 17 years old, it's unimaginable. It's honestly unthinkable. Yet Mr. Morrissey made it happen, not only for me, but for many other students. However, this wasn't a luxurious trip. I didn't get a spa, right? It wasn't a vacation. Even though it was filled with joy and memories, it was educational. And I will never forget that it was also a huge learning experience. This was my first time out of the country, and my perspective changed because even though I'm a financial aid student in New Jersey, in the United States, I still lived better. And I felt that after I saw the way people lived in Costa Rica, I take for granted a lot of the small things in this life and a lot of small things that I've been gifted to. And just seeing the way that people lived in Costa Rica, it has honestly changed me to not take for granted the little things and to always cherish every single moment we have in this life. So, it taught me not only to be compassionate to others, but it has changed my mind goal into what I want to get out of this life. I have a voice. I'm going into communications for college. I'm undecided on what I really want to do after that step, though. But I'm really hoping that I can find an opportunity to make this world a better place and help others. Mountain Goat Movement and Mr. Morrissey is trying to do the same. This didn't help me just change my perspective on how I view my everyday life, but it also helped me to be more open to try new things. On a survey that I found just researching by mileagemayvary.com, I found very sad statistics within the United States. That 13% of the people said they have never flown on an airplane, and 40% said that they have never left the country. And 63% of that 40 said that an international trip would cost more than they could afford. Mr. Morrissey and Mountain Goat Movement is trying to help that 63%. I am a part of that 63%. But Mr. Morrissey kind of pulled me out and led me to see the beauty of the world. Now I'm not only curious, but I am so intrigued to see what else this world has to offer. And I really want to spend my life traveling all parts of the world. And it's not just me. It's many other teenagers and students around me. But something that's a little different, also my parents. My parents had to, give up what they wanted to do in this life. I've an older brother, older sister, and myself. They dedicated themselves to be parents. And when Mr. Morrissey gave me this opportunity to go to Costa Rica, they kind of felt they saw the world, and they see what Mr. Morrissey does and what he's trying to do, and they felt that they've been parents their whole lives, and there's so much more that this world has to offer that they are doing the same, just at a later age. So Mr. Morrissey is not just hitting students; he's hitting my parents, which is it's very unique and very different, which is so amazing. So Mountain Goat Movement has helped me to see that there's really so much more in this world to experience. And he's trying to help thousands of young students like me to see and experience all of this world has to offer. And even all this country has to offer. He's trying to help the students see the beautiful outdoors. And there is so much more to this life. Our phrase is find your peak. I try to find my peak in every single little thing I do. Again, I'm sitting in my manager's office at work because if I work hard, I've learned that it will pay off and it will help me gain another experience that I would never have thought of trying or thinking about doing before Mountain Goat Movement. A quote that resonates with me today, and a quote I live by, and a quote that is actually my senior quote in my yearbook that Mr. Morrissey has not yet to find out, is a quote that he said in a speech in Costa Rica. It states, "Fun is temporary, but fulfillment is everlasting." And I do try to live every single moment to the fullest, and I try to cherish every moment now. And I will, because of these trips that I've gone on and the experiences that I have experienced. Thank you so much for letting me talk. And any questions, I'm here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mossimo and John. Really appreciate it. And for everyone on the call, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions about the work that we're doing, if you want to collaborate on a trip, if you want to share adventure stories and travel stories, you can reach out to me at mountaingoatmovement@gmail.com. We also have a website, mountaingoatmovement.com, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. But I think we're really fortunate enough to be a part of this amazing summit. And I would love to connect with all of you who are students who are doing meaningful work across the world. You know, this Changemaker Summit is for the people who want to make the world a better place. And all of us are trying our best to do that within the communities that we serve. So good luck to everyone. And thank you so much, Sonali, for having us on this wonderful call. All righty. Thank you very much, everyone. I don't know if there's time for questions, or we'll turn it over to you, Sonali, I guess.
I do see some questions in the chat, but I do see that Mr. John has answered them.
I've been answering some of the questions, Greg, while we're talking.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Yes, Sonali, we can share the video with you.
Yeah, great. So I can put this video, what I can do, if it's a link, I can put it out in the description of this this particular session so that people can view the video. Right now, if you can share it with me, we can play it. If it's not a long video, I can download it and we can try it out.
I can send it to you right now.
Great. I can do that. In the meantime,
thank you so much.
In the meantime, I just want to say a huge thank you to every one of you. This has been one of the most interesting sessions so far that I've moderated, and loved the conversations, loved all the different experiences shared by Mr. Greg being a teacher, how Mr. Mossimo brought in the students' perspective, and of course the parents' perspective, and how Mr. John has also portrayed, you know, his experience from being, you know, a Nat Geo photographer to, making sure that he's working towards the climate, plus working towards, working with these youths on these adventures. So it's been a very interesting conversation. And I think it's high time that we include such such things in our curriculums, in our educational systems, make them a part of a daily thing, so that our students, our youth can get more and more engrossed. And as Mr. Mossimo mentioned, that it's his parents as well who are a part of this journey. So the parents have lived their whole life as parents. It's time for them to also have some adventure. So so rightly mentioned. So it has been one of the most interesting sessions so far. Thank you, everyone.
I should mention our mission over the next few years is, this year was our pilot trip with this idea of like Source to Sea, where we take students on a human-powered adventure of a river that is important to a culture, to a geographic location, and then bring in explorers, scientists, John and his awesome film team. This is something that we want to do all over the world. I think because rivers are so important. Rivers are the lifeblood of a lot of communities. And so I think right now, what our dream is to work with different brands and foundations to create these river expeditions for students all over the world. And I don't think that there's any reason why we wouldn't be able to merge student populations from all over the world. Like, this shouldn't just be limited to, New York as an example from this trip. I think we can really create something magical and very life-giving for students across the world. And to Mossimo's point before, like, we want to do this in a way where it's not a financial burden for people. Like, we want to make sure that we have funds in place to sponsor students, that, access to the outdoors, to education should be accessible to everyone. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter your financial background, your family circumstance. Like, everyone should have access to these things. And so with Mountain Goat Movement, like, that is the number one criteria that I'm trying to meet is I'm trying to find creative ways to ensure that we can cultivate meaningful experiences that everyone and anyone can access. And I think this river project could launch into something really special where we could do it with students, leaders, explorers, maybe people on this call from all over the world, and really share this story of experiential learning and accessibility.
Sounds so interesting. I hope, we have something like that in India as well. I'm always looking out for treks. I made some, I think Mr. Greg did mention that, there are these adventures are some place where you end up meeting strangers and you form like lifelong bondings. And believe me, some of my friends are friends who I met on trek. So even I love that. So I'm really looking forward to this. And I'll stay in touch, Mr. Greg. I would really love to hear more about this adventure that you're planning ahead. And let's see if we can do something in India as well. So yeah.
Yes, we would love to. That would be a dream.
Great. Awesome. So coming to the video, I was finally able to open it. John, I'm really looking forward for the full movie. The trailer is really interesting.
Oh, thanks so much. I mean, we got such great footage, and to tell the story, it's pretty meaningful. So, yes. And we want to get that out there. We want people to see that, adventure is everything. Doesn't matter if it's out in the wild. It could be an adventure for a new job. It could be. I'm getting a lot of questions about breaking fears, like facing their fears. And, I'd like to just address that real quick, is that just don't look at it like fear. Look at it like something to overcome, and if you fear it, then you should do it, because guess what's going to happen after you do it? You're not going to fear it anymore. So that's my suggestion. You can't do it alone. Get your buddy to do it. Grab your dad, get your mom, get your dog, go do it together, and push past that fear. Because that will inspire someone to do it too. If you push past your fear, the next person behind you will push past their fear. You do it as a group. You do it as a squad. You don't do these alone. You do these together. And that's sort of answering, let me see. I can't say his name, but Sukana. Is that right? I don't know. Something like that. Some question, but just break through your fear, man. Do what you have to do. Do it. You'll be a better person when you come out the end. And that's, that I learned that from my adventures. I learned that from Greg. I've learned that from Mossimo too. I mean, just face it and push through it, and you will accomplish more than you possibly could imagine. So that's just to answer some of those questions, on the back of the India movie, you got to check out 83. I shot most of the cricket stuff.
I've watched it. I did, and I didn't knew that you were one of them.
I shot all the cricket stuff.
Shocked. I was like, "What?" I love that movie. Yeah. I think every one of us. We have a lot of people in the room, and everyone was looking at me. Oh my god! And I was like, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, Ranveer Singh called me his hefty American friend. I was a little bit bigger at the time, so I was just. I'd walk on, he'd be like, "There's my hefty American friend," and I was like, "Geez, I got to stop eating all this food," you know. So it was but it was really cool experience, and it was really cool because I had just come back from Sri Lanka, and I did a story on the macaques, monkeys out there, and then I was just in India and in Jaipur, and it was really cool. I was on the movie for 3 months, so it was awesome. It was really cool, and so I felt a real connection to the culture, and I felt like I walked away with some really good friends. And I was scared to go and do that movie because it was me and someone else, and we were the only two outsiders from that production. And I went there, and within a week, I was open arms, trying to learn the language, you know, trying to do my, you know, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And I understood cricket afterwards. I could totally watch cricket with the people now, and I understand what's going on. Had no idea before I got there, but now I do. So that's all.
Oh my God, that's so great. That's so great. Yeah, Jaipur is amazing. I've been to Jaipur a couple of times myself. It's very near to Delhi. So I live in Delhi. Yeah.
I've been to Delhi, and Delhi was awesome. I've been to New Delhi, and then we did a story on the New Delhi and Old Delhi.
Wow.
And the food was amazing. You have the best food I've ever had, and I haven't all around the world. Morocco food was good too, though. So those two places. So,
awesome.
But thank you so much, and you know, I could talk to you all day about India.
Of course.
But we really appreciate it, so.
I mean, if we could have more time, I mean, I would love to have this session extended. But thank you so much, everyone. This was really exciting call.